Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our STEM professionals panel. We're going to give it a minute for everybody to get into the room. We had over almost 90 people register for this evening. We want to make sure we get as many people in before we actually start. Just a few housekeeping items. This is a webinar, so your mic is automatically muted and your video is turned off, so there's no need for you to worry about keeping track of that. We have ASL interpreters here so that we can engage with our deaf and hard of hearing community, but we also have enabled live transcript for closed captioning. If you'd like to turn that on, just click the little CC on your Zoom bar. Chat has been disabled for this evening, but if you want to ask questions of the panelists, there's the little Q&A on your Zoom bar. Feel free to ask your questions there. Our panelists are very excited to hear your questions, and you can start asking questions as soon as we start, or as soon as they start speaking. This webinar is being recorded and will be made available on Fresno City College's YouTube channel. And with that, I'm gonna say, take it away, Ben.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ben Reynoso. I am the director of our student services programs here at Fresno City College. I oversee our TRIO SSS program, as well as our Upward Bound program and our Dream Center. Today, I'm here representing our administrative team here at Fresno City College, Dr. Marlon Hall, Dr. Latoria Hall, as well as our incoming president, Dr. Roberto Pimentel. With that being said, we are beyond excited to have this amazing group of professionals come and speak to you today. If they're in the same caliber of the professionals that we had on Monday under health, I'm pretty sure every single student here is going to have an amazing time listening and hearing from them, regardless if you're an incoming student to Fresno City College or you're a graduating student from college. We welcome you to ask questions, to make sure you engage with our presenters and learn from them, as we've tried our best to make sure to have a team here to share something with you today. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to one of our coordinators, Mr. Jack Yang, who serves as one of our counseling leads.
Good evening, everyone. I'm really excited to be here tonight with you all. And so my name is Jack Yang. I'm the Health and STEM Counselor and Counseling Department Chair at Fresno City College. And I would like to introduce our panelists tonight. So if Dr. Royman, you can go and introduce yourself first.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Marina Royman. I am a physician specializing in liver diseases, and I work downtown at UCSF Fresno.
Hello, happy to see you all here today. My name is Lynx Calloway, and I am a security analyst and ethical hacker for Bitwise Industries.
Hello, my name is May Columber. I work for the University of California Cooperative Extension based here in Fresno. I'm a soil scientist and I work in agriculture.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jennifer Morales. I'm a senior environmental scientist at the California Department of Water Resources, and I work on climate change.
Hello, my name is Wiley Hall. I'm an analytical chemist. So at various times, it's been either environmental or agricultural chemistry. And I work for Safe Food Alliance, which is a laboratory that does food safety testing.
Hi, I'm Reagan O'Leary. I'm an environmental scientist for the California Department of Fish and Wildlife, and my focus is endangered species on ecological reserves. I do a lot of species monitoring.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Dario Dominguez. I am the Public Works Director for the City of Fowler. I oversee our water distribution system, our water treatment system, streets, roads, lighting, parks, and our solid waste. Nice to have everybody here.
Thank you, panelists. It's great seeing such a diverse panelists for this STEM panel. So we're going to go ahead and go into our first question. And I would like to ask Dario and Lynx, what is your background and why did you choose the profession that you are currently in today?
Okay, I can go first. I am a civil engineer, graduated from Fresno State. Currently, I am the public works director for the city of Fowler. Like I said, I oversee our water distribution system, our streets, parks, lighting, and our waste management, our solid waste. I migrated from Mexico at the age of 13, and struggles left and right, but we are here today, and it's an honor to be here today.
Excuse me. Yeah, so like I said earlier, I am a security analyst / ethical hacker. I actually did not go to college, or I did. I went to about a year of it. Unfortunately, I am also the survivor of human trafficking via cyber domestic violence, which is kind of how I wound up doing what I do today. I was a really, really dumb kid with a lot of really, really shady friends who were doing some, in hindsight, very illegal things online. And as I got older, there kind of hit a point for me where I saw a problem with an increase of stalkerware and all sorts of other nasty digital cybercrime that was doing real harm to people, but especially women and queer folks and other at-risk minorities. And I realized that I had actually picked up a few tricks of the trade and wondered if I could do anything about that.
What an interesting that background and story. Thanks for sharing that, Links and Dario. Did any other panelists wanted to share their background on why you all chose this profession, your particular professions?
I can share. I was raised by a single mom, and it was before all of the technology that are at children's fingertips today. And I was an only child, so I needed to find things to keep me occupied. And I looked back and I was a future biologist. I know not everybody that becomes a biologist has these sorts of memories, but I was picking apart plants, wondering what the different reproductive parts were, digging through the soil, pulling out worms. I basically was what you'd call a tomboy. I did not like to play typical girl things. And in the end, I really wanted to do something in my career that I wanted to do, that I was passionate about. And I'm really fortunate to have actually found my way there, and I get to work with species that most people don't even know exist in the Central Valley.
Excellent. So let me ask.
Go ahead.
Let me ask the next question here. What advice would you give to our students pursuing a career in math, science, technology, or engineering?
So I can start. I think I have two pieces of advice. One is do it for the right reason, right? Do not let your parents or your teachers or your friends tell you that you need to pursue this career or that career. It has to really come from your heart and you really, really want to do it, right? For me, I never really imagined doing anything but medicine. And I loved it then and I love it now. So that's piece of advice number one. Piece of advice number two, do not let anybody tell you that you can't do it, right? Because if this is your passion, you can and you will do it. I am a first generation immigrant. I came from the country that no longer exists, called former Soviet Union. I was not able to become a physician back there because my family and I are Jewish and this was not allowed. So I came to this country. I didn't speak English. I was 16 and really did not. A lot of people tried to discourage me and tried to get me to do something easier, simpler, or faster. As you know, Korean medicine takes a long time to get there. But I really felt like this was my passion and this is what I wanted to do. And I'm really glad I did. So I just want to encourage all of you, to follow your passion.
I was thinking something along the same lines, in that, looking at, I always knew I wanted to be in science, but knowing just, the field that I wanted to be in, there's been a couple times over the years when I try to think back to maybe my undergraduate career or, excuse me, before graduate school and choosing what I would specialize in and what advice I would give someone to make sure you pick that subject that has, funding or support. And, I always come up blank. So, really at the end of the day, if you're picking something you're going to do for the rest of your life, kind of day in and day out, really make sure it's something that you enjoy. Because, everything else, I don't know if I could tell you how to predict it. So, even when, instruments aren't working, experiments are failing, I don't know if I'd be able to get through that if it wasn't something that I really enjoy doing.
Thank you, Dr. Hall. Thank you, Dr. Reitman. Great advice to our students to choose careers that they really want to be doing. Any other of our panelists want to take a crack at that question?
Okay, are you ready?
Excellent. Let's go to the next question.
All right, so you're all clearly successful individuals with your careers and the journey that you all have taken. What is the one thing behind your success? And I would like to direct this to two individuals first, to Reagan and to Dr. Wiley Hall, if you both can answer this.
I can go first. Yeah, I really like this question. I thought this was a good one. And it really made me think. In the end, I think what's led to my success is I'm not afraid to ask questions and I never stop learning. Even though I'm done with schooling, I got my bachelor's degree. I attempted master's a couple times. I didn't finish, but I continue to learn on my own. And whether that be directly work related or just how the world works. Yeah, I never stop inquiring. And a lot of the new staff that come on board with Cal Fish and Wildlife, they get recommended by their supervisors to come in the field with me. And I have a reputation now for being a walking encyclopedia. And I love educating people on the history of the Central Valley and how it looked prior and, compared to what it looks like now and why. That's really my passion. But in the end, when I have staff working with me, I appreciate those staff that do ask questions. And I love asking questions and I love answering questions.
I feel a little funny claiming success in my career, but I guess you can't really know for sure until it's all over. But the two things that I think have really helped me be where I am are being able to go out and get hands-on work experience. I started as a freshman student working in one of my professor's labs, and that kind of led to my next job and my next job until here I am today. And then the other thing that I thought of is when if I were to claim something to separate myself from other a lot of other scientists I see in the field, really kind of focusing on skills outside of STEM. Being able to write well, being able to communicate an idea, do a a good presentation to make sure you get your ideas across. I feel that sometimes that gets left out or isn't focused on, but it can really be when when interviewing someone, when looking at papers and other presentations, something that sets you apart.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Having those soft skills is very important. And as Reagan had mentioned, being curious and asking questions and not being afraid of that. The panel, for the rest of the panelists who didn't answer, would you all, or would you care to share what was the one thing behind your success? Anyone else?
Yeah, I'll go. Honestly, a big part of my success, I have to be, is the astounding amount of support that I received from both of my partners. I did not, as a visibly assigned female at birth and queer individual, I did not grow up being told or encouraged that there was a place for me in tech, let alone security. It is a very cis het male dominated industry, and that's gotten better over the last few years. There's much more representation, but I never in a million years imagined that I would be doing this, and I don't know that I necessarily would be if it hadn't been for my husband, especially his ability to push and even physically drag me to events to help me get to know other people in the field, because I just didn't know even where to start. I would say that not being afraid to lean on your support system, or even allowing them to force their support onto you, depending on what degree of nervousness you might be feeling, can actually be quite hopeful.
Any other panelists would want to share their success? One thing behind their success before we move on to the next question? We can go ahead and move on.
Hey, Dario, I think you're unmuted. Go for it.
Sorry, I apologize for that. I'd like to chime in a little bit here. One of the things that has brought me to where I'm at today is probably being persistent. Just getting through high school, it was super difficult for me, the language barriers, and then going on to college, just having that persistency and just say, you know what, I'm gonna finish, I'm gonna keep going. And then graduating, and then, hey, you're on the real world. Now you're in the professional life, and you just had no idea you were gonna make it there, and then just keep going. I was designing for a private firm for numerous years, and then opportunities came, and then I just keep being persistent and having your objectives accomplished by, again, being persistent. So in a million years, I would have never thought I would be a director as well, leading hundreds of people here. But if you all just keep that in mind, I think you'll be as successful as well.
One thing I would say that I hadn't heard mentioned is, learning from when you do experience failure. I think at different times we may have different perceptions of what constitutes failure, but reflect, not being dejected by those experiences, but rather learning about how I could have done things differently, and that can really help build towards a future of future decision making. And sometimes things don't go the way that you would expect, but you never know what doors are going to open and be available to you.
Excellent, great answers. Let me ask the next question. Speaking of learning from our mistakes, what are some of the mistakes or bad habits that you had as a student? So I'm taking you guys way back to your college, or maybe not that many years back, but back to your college years. Anything that you learned from or would give advice to our college students today?
I know I volunteered to answer this one. I wasn't the best student until the last couple years of my bachelor's degree. And looking back, I could see really what contributed to it is that I didn't schedule time for studying, and I didn't reach out to fellow students to have study partners. I ended up learning that from a fellow student. Fortunately, as the classes got harder and harder, I was treading water. And yeah, she was really able to help me with that skill set. And then I just embraced it. I was known for having folks in my dining room all the time, and we would just talk about that future test coming up and our notes and coming up with ideas on how to remember and how to get that stuff somewhat in our long-term memory, at least long enough to be able to answer a question on the exam. But in the end, actually, some of that stuck. It helps having different ways of learning, whether it, be through different media types or conversation or reading, or I'm sure you guys can come up with other ideas. You guys have so many different resources than I had when I was a student. But yeah, that was basically it. It's just not scheduling time for my schoolwork, and it would have made a big difference. But towards the end, I whipped it into shape and performed well.
Yeah, I don't think I would have ever been able to get into grad school based on my grades in undergrad alone. So, I had to take a few years, managed to get a job in a lab, and besides having to kind of change my approach to studying in school in general once I got into school, if I hadn't been able to get that experience and some of the recommendations, I probably would never have gone any farther.
Slide.
Anyone else in the panel would like to answer that question before we move on? Mistake or bad habit you made as a student?
I'll thread on that one. I had horrible procrastination tendencies. Everything was always, oh yeah, I'm going to do that later. I'm going to do that tonight. I'm going to do that tomorrow. And, that time would never come. And that was really just, the bane of my existence as a student. And it really, really crippled me for a very long time. Again, similar to what Reagan said, just until my last, 2 years in school, and I kind of matured a little bit, grew up a little bit, and got a little more focused. I was starting to be able to schedule those things and prioritize studying.
Yeah, well, it's affirming to hear you all share your struggles and procrastinating, because I think when we see you all with such successful careers, we probably thought that you had it all together and you just figure it out somehow. But the reality is that you all share similar struggles that us and our students share as well. So it's quite humbling to hear that. I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next question. So the next question is, how was your college experience, especially for those of you who started out at the community college? I'm going to go ahead and go with Jennifer first. So if you can share with us, Jennifer.
Yeah, thank you. I spent quite a few years at Fresno City College. I was actually on that 9-year, 4-year degree pathway. So I spent about half that time at City College, flunking a class every semester because I was, working. I had a family. I had kids. I got married very young. I was always had one, if not 2 jobs. So my entire college career was a real struggle. I'm like some of the other panelists, I'm first generation American. My parents had nothing to give to me. And we're just kind of, if we're all being honest here, we're kind of just like a joke of parents to begin with. They were way too, they had way too many of their own issues to be of any assistance to me. It was definitely a complete struggle. And I went to school, in the 90s in Fresno Unified. And again, you talk about a joke of an education. So when I started at college, I was a really great, student in high school. And then when I got to college, it was a very rude awakening about what a poor education I had received. And I had a lot of catching up to do. My entire college career could be defined by the word struggle. And, it was just sheer determination that got me through it, and student loans.
Yes, student loans, we have many regrets with that. I will, I think it's so relevant what you're sharing and relatable as a first gen college student. Many of our students here at Fresno City are also first gen. For our panelists, did anyone else attend community college? And if so, can you share your journey at community college?
I started at community college, actually grew up in the Midwest, and I had a hard time early on knowing, I was a pretty good student in high school, but I wasn't really all that sure of what it was I wanted to do. I loved the outdoors. I loved, hiking and just spending as much time doing that. I really wanted to go out west, which is why I ended up in California. But going to community college was, a great time for me to, not only save money, because, getting these degrees are expensive, but to get my prerequisites, get exposure to different areas of science and decide, where I wanted to focus my interests. So, I think that having a beginning with the community college was really instrumental with helping me with where I am today.
I also went to Fresno City College and got most of my general education there. And then I transferred to Fresno State, and it was a great experience. I was in the biology department. There wasn't cool field science back then. But yeah, it was a great experience, and it really helped me move on.
I also started at the community college, and for the simple reason is that I needed to learn English, which community college was a really wonderful and supportive environment to do that in. So I actually went to a couple community college trying to figure out where ultimately I'm going to go. But I think being in a smaller environment, having supportive teachers has really made a difference for me and allowed me to continue my education from there on.
Excellent. Love hearing how many community college graduates we have in the panel. And it's really good to hear that, especially with our students all being Fresno City students on here. How about gender or ethnicity? Has that played any role in your profession or choosing your profession?
In a lot of ways, especially because of my past, my gender, both assigned at birth and how I identify now, is in a lot of ways the basis for the career that I have now. I believe I mentioned this earlier, but I was not encouraged to pursue anything in tech in any way, shape, or form. I actually grew up being told that I should never be allowed to touch a computer because I was where they went to die. And that was actually true. I am very good at breaking things, which is kind of what got me started into ethical hacking. But that lack of support was very prevalent. And I also really did not grow up seeing anybody who was queer, who was femme, who was disabled, in doing what I do. It never felt like a possibility. And while I'm very, very fortunate that my workplace is basically run entirely by these super badass, queer, disabled individuals, I do occasionally still have to deal with the horrible sexism of clients. I'm actually reminded now of a particularly frustrating set of interactions. We had this client who had spent months demanding my attention, and something about my role is I am not client facing. Everything that I do is very much internal and behind the scenes, which suits me very well. I am a shut-in and very introverted, and I'm very sensitive to being yelled at. So we had this very incredibly ornery client who had demanded my attention for months. And so it was finally arranged for me to sit with them and give a live consult on top of the reports that I had already written. And I entered the meeting and I could see there were 4 of them. They were all men. They were I was running just a touch late, like by a minute or 2. Everybody else had showed up early. And I remembered popping into the meeting and seeing the disappointment and disgust on their faces. It became very obvious very quickly that they were expecting to see a man, and not a gimpy little cupcake looking non-binary person. And for the entirety of the meeting and pretty much every interaction past that, they did not even give me the chance to speak. And something that kind of occurred to me very early on in my career, because I did not go to college for this. I'm entirely self-taught, and that was a lot of work. I wouldn't recommend it necessarily. You have to be a very specific kind of person. It was really hard, but I did it. But because I grew up believing that there was not room for me in STEM, especially not in tech, especially not in cybersecurity, I wound up adopting this mindset of, if this field believes that there is not room for me at this table, I'm going to make them make room. They will learn to accept me, whether they want to or not. Because the reality is, even if my place of employment is very accepting and loving and amazing, the rest of the world isn't necessarily. And I am occasionally reminded of that. And it very much fuels my fire. And then the other aspect of that is I got into cybersecurity specifically because I saw a lack of resources and a lack of manpower, pun not intended, in tackling the exponentially increasing issue of cyber domestic violence. I have had so many people come to me, trans kids, women, people of color, all of these people terrified of their devices because their home is so unsafe and they have someone at home making their digital lives unsafe. And with the way that the world is now, your digital safety is your physical safety. You cannot realistically separate the two in a lot of ways, especially when it comes to domestic violence. And I gained a bit of a reputation early on, and keep in mind when I say this, I was closeted as trans until about 2 years ago. So I gained a bit of a reputation as the little girl that you could go to, and I would make sure that your devices, that like your computer, your phone, your car, your Alexa, oh God, please tell me I didn't activate mine, was rock solid, right? And my little girl, my 6-year-old child, gets to watch me as a queer femme provide these services to people. I have trans kids who look up to me, who feel like there is room for them at the table because I am visibly queer and femme and disabled in this field. And that is one of the most fulfilling parts of what I do.
Thank you, Lynx. And anyone else want to share a little bit about how gender or ethnicity has contributed to your position?
So in my role, I have the opportunity to work with early career professionals and also students, both people working on their bachelor's, maybe thinking about doing a master's. And I just think that being a woman professional and working with earlier career younger women, I think that it's nice that they can see that that success and and see that there's a path to achieve your goals.
Excellent. I love the fact that there's so many game changers on here. And yeah, let's go to the next question.
Thank you for sharing your, the obstacles and the hurdles you all had to overcome for your careers. The next question is related to what has been shared so far, but with college students, especially today, they're balancing so many things. They're parents, they're working, battling mental health issues, disabilities, and everything with COVID. And so with that said, and the complexities of being a college student and what they're going through, what advice do you all want to share for our students? Why don't we go ahead and start with May?
Thank you. I guess I would start out by saying you're not alone. If there's some comfort in that, I mean, everybody, most people are walking around with things, whether it's something that something in their personal life that's causing difficulties, or just having a lot of balls in the air, just trying to balance a lot of things with your family, with having to hold a job, while trying to get through school. And so I think it's good to keep those kind of things in mind. Don't overcommit yourself when you're thinking about what your class load is going to be for the coming year. Just figure out what classes you have to take. Maybe something isn't offered every year, something like that. Get to know your counselor. I'm sure there's the academic counselors are available to you, and they can help you. They can help you with these problems with the classes that you're already enrolled in. Talk to your instructor. They want you to succeed. They can help you if you're having problems with that school, work, life balance. They may be able to help you, or to point you in the direction of the counselor at school or someone else that may be able to assist you.
Right, reach out to your counselors, everyone. Anyone else want to share some piece of advice for our students who are just balancing life in general?
I feel bad because I feel like I'm talking a lot, but I can pop in. you need to, I mean, piggybacking on what was just said, like, be realistic about what you're capable of and be okay with that. You're a human being, not a machine that's meant to run ad nauseum when everything around you is burning. Like, 100% honor where you are in your body and in your emotions and your circumstances. There have been a lot of times, especially when I was teaching myself all of this crap, that my health took a dive or my child's health took a dive, and I had to step away from it. And I got so down on myself, and that was one of the biggest mistakes I could have made in the moment. It wasn't helpful. Like, you're human, and we are operating under impossible circumstances. Even without COVID, I would argue, like, we aren't necessarily meant to function the way that our society is laid out right now. And figuring out how to make your corner of the world work for you and make your space and your people functional for you. I honestly wish that I had figured out that bit sooner.
Definitely. Thank you, Links. And yeah, definitely self-care is really important. And, I think us as administrators and people that work on our campus, it's really important that, we open those doors for you to either seek mental health if needed at our campus. We have psych services and so forth, but also the educational stuff like tutoring, additional tutoring, housing assistance, the RAM pantry, all those good stuff that also, like, a lot of us students who grew up first generation, we also didn't have food and so forth. So I'm really happy to hear that Fresno City is trying to do a little bit more of that towards our students. But the next question that I know I want to ask here is, what advice do you have as far as, kind of dealing with everything that's going on in this world right now with COVID, racial injustice? I mean, I know we have a lot of STEM majors or STEM people here, so it's a lot of black and white type of careers, but what advice would you give to our students here?
I think I'll take that one. I think it certainly can be overwhelming to watch the news and listen to the internet. And sometimes it feels just like the whole world is falling apart. And sometimes it's hard to hold on and it's hard to keep going, especially while you're in school. I think the advice that I would like to give you is really trying to take one day at a time, and to take one day at a time at becoming your very best, right? Because the world, unfortunately, isn't going to fix itself, right? The world is going to need a whole lot of help. And I think by going to school, by really trying to better yourself, trying to become, to use your potential to the max, we can really help the world. And, we can find a cure for COVID. I mean, we found the vaccine, right? We can work on the racial injustices. It is something that on the individual basis, working day in and day out at bettering ourselves, we can help the world that way. Perhaps it sounds cheesy, but that's kind of my approach to it. And it's been my approach to it, and it still is.
All right. Anyone else? Go for it, Jack.
All right. So the next question is all about struggles. What advice would you give to students who are currently struggling in their courses?
I think I'll jump in on that one. So if you're struggling with your courses, I totally understand what that's like. Because like I said, that was me every single semester. I was struggling with something. I don't know if Fresno City College has it anymore. Back when I was there, they had incredible tutoring center. I really, really hope you still have it, because let me tell you, when I got to Fresno State, that was one of the things I missed so much. Because when I got to Fresno State, I had to pay cash personally for my tutoring. So if they still have that free tutoring, take advantage of it, because it is amazing. And like I said earlier, you know, procrastination and things like that are not going to help you. I remember leaving classes and thinking to myself, you know, gosh, I really don't understand that, but I'll study it later. And, you know, that later would never come. And then, you know, we would get to the test, I would do horribly. And I would always say, oh, I'll do better on the next one. Like, oh, I'll catch up. I'll really try harder on the next unit or the next section. And that's when I'll catch up. You know, and those things would just never happen, because good intentions really don't mean squat without actions. So things are not going to get better if you don't help yourself. So, you know, get yourself some help, get some tutoring, go to your office hours, talk to the other students, join study groups, take some kind of action to help yourself.
I like to chime in a little bit too. You know, just like I like to echo pretty much everything Jennifer said, but we kind of all go through the same struggles. You know, first, and I was so used to the tutoring system at the college level as well, and then, but you kind of take that with you when you go into the 4-year, you know, universities, and I think it's very important that you find, you know, those study groups, because I remember myself, you know, it was 1, 2 in the morning, and you know, I was just struggling with just a couple of problems. You know, engineering, it was not easy at all. And, you know, when you find other friends that, you know, you guys get together and do the homework assignments, it really, really helps. You know, it took me a few semesters for me to understand that, but, and I failed a few classes, and don't be afraid of that. I think that only makes you stronger. It's not the end of the world. I think you guys are super smart inside of you guys, and you all have talents. You just have to develop those talents, and that is just, you know, just lubricate your brains with all your friends, and find the right relationships, and I think you guys will all success. Thanks.
I agree. Seeking resources, which most of you are paying for already anyways with your tuition, and building a community, having a sense of community is so important in higher ed. Any other panelists who would like to answer that question? Advice to give students who are currently struggling?
You know, I think what Jennifer said really was the, you know, perfect answer. But just to something I think of sometimes, you know, so many people seem to think that you know, you're either, you know, born with a talent to do STEM or you're not. And if it doesn't come easy, then it's just not your thing and you're not going to do it. But, you know, I mean, it shouldn't be like this constant soul-sucking struggle, but, you know, everything takes time to learn. And, you know, it's just putting, you know, sometimes it is just putting the effort, not letting yourself get behind, and, you know, seeking help. You don't think that because you don't, you know, there's so many things I wish I had talked to a TA or a professor about, that, you know, maybe years later in another class, I was like, oh, you know, I understand this now. And, you know, I don't know why you know, there's no reason for me to be so intimidated by it or just so confused by it. So.
Excellent. Well, I'm going to ask the last question before we go into it, the student questions, because I know some of the students, if you have any questions that you would like to ask to the entire panel or to certain panelists, please put them into the question and answers box here, as we're going to probably go in and ask those questions right now. But I guess my question is, any advice for any of those, because a lot of our students on here, they might be a STEM major, but they're not quite sure which career to choose, or they're not even sure what career field to go into. What advice would you give them?
If no one's going to jump in on this, I'll jump in here. I'm going through this right now, actually, with my own kids. I have kids that are, you know, in early adulthood, and they feel a lot of pressure about not knowing what they want to do. And they feel like they have to have all their decisions made right now. And it really sucks that this is actually how our society is set up, that you have to kind of front load your life, and that kind of determines the rest of your life. But, you know, I really want to push against that, that kind of stigma. I do think that you have the opportunity to experience a lot of things, try different things. Nothing in this world is permanent. And so, you know, if you don't know what you want to do, then you have to just start trying things out. You just start trying things out, you try it out, you don't like it, find something else. I think that you kind of have to have that attitude of openness and realizing like, hey, you know, I might not have it figured out but right now, but I'm gonna get it figured out, and it's not the end of the world, you know, that I don't. And maybe just offer yourself a little bit of grace, and be okay with not knowing everything right now.
Yeah, I didn't know that I wanted to be a biologist, and I volunteered at multiple entities. I thought I wanted to be a vet, and I asked if I could volunteer at a clinic, and they were actually like, actually, we need help. We need help in the kennel. So I got an entry paying job at a vet clinic, and then I volunteered at the zoo and got a student aid position there. I highly recommend, if you can, interview professionals that, you know, are in the career that you think you are slightly interested in. Be brave and ask. Also, a lot of entities do allow shadowing or volunteering. Just be brave enough to ask, because it'll really, you know, help you see, like, you'll have that chance to ask questions and determine if it's something that, you know, you want to do the rest of your life. And if one day isn't enough, or a few hours, then, you know, ask to tag along a little bit longer. And also, all of that is stuff you can put on your resume. Volunteering is, it does look it looks good when you have only worked like at a fast food place, and you have, you know, a few college credits, and you want to get a job. Showing that you have interest and you're willing to explore, whether you're getting paid or not. As I'm a person that reviews resumes for folks that we hire, it looks really good.
Yeah. May I saw that you were about to say something.
Oh, well, I just thought that both what Jennifer and Reagan, you know, mentioned, I would build on that. I also frequently review resumes, and it really comes through the people that have developed interests. You know, in my organization, we've called plenty of people that didn't exactly have all of the preferred prerequisites for a job, but, you know, just if you could see that, you know, that there's hard work and interest, if there's an opportunity for a job that you're applying for, to write a cover letter, you know, be sincere. You know, really show your interest in the job, and you'll be surprised. That, you know, it's not always, you know, all of the exact qualifications that you need to get a foot in the door. You know, you have to demonstrate that interest. So be engaged.
Thank you for sharing your responses. Let's go ahead and go into the student questions now. We only have 15 minutes left, so we're going to do our best to answer them. The first student question, a lot of the students struggle with this, is networking. So what are ways a student can network in the field that you are all in?
I mentioned in the chat, just if, you know, there's a lot of professional organizations out there that have student chapters. you can, you know, a lot of times that you can enroll in those that are at a reduced rate, and there's a lot of networking opportunities there with people from all over the country, you know, both online now with webinars. You know, there's lots of things you can attend to learn more about that area of interest. There's, you know, student job boards, opportunities for internships. So yeah, the world's at your fingertips with searching out those organizations.
You know, sometimes when I need someone in the lab, I call up, Dr. Yates at Fresno City, and he'll tell me who in his class is doing well and looking for a job. So, if you find that you're in a class you like and you're doing well, talk to the professor, and, maybe they know someone that's hiring or can point you in the right direction.
Curious, how about those of you who maybe identify as more like introverted, maybe a little shy? Any advice for our students on networking?
Yes, this is actually something that I am actively, oh goodness, I threw my fidget toy. Something I am actively working on pretty much all of the time. The beautiful thing about being in tech and today's world is that Discord is in fact a legitimate networking platform. You don't have to leave your house. You can start there. InfoSec Twitter, assuming that Elon Musk doesn't, completely screw everything up, is actually a great resource. And then just here locally in Fresno, there is a space called Root Access in Tower District that hosts a variety of meetups. Like, do a little bit of tactical Googling, and it doesn't even necessarily have to apply just to tech or just to cybersecurity. Like, just see if there's anybody near you or any groups online that might be interested in some of the things that you're interested in. And I know that I have made like some really serious lifelong friendships that way. I've really found my family through those local meetups. So, even if it seems like the worst thing in the world to have to go out and put yourself out there and interact when you're feeling confused and like, oh, like maybe I don't even belong here. Like, no, most people are surprisingly actually pretty cool.
Let's go ahead and move on to the next question from students. So this next question, let me go ahead and post this real quick, is about imposter syndrome. So feeling like you're not worthy, even though you have reached a level of success already. So imposter syndrome is definitely big for many women, minorities, LGBTQ plus individuals. How do you power through or overcome that? And does it still affect you today?
I love that question. I'll jump in. The imposter syndrome affected me before I knew there was a term for it. So I was very excited to learn that there was actual term and something that we call it. In my mind, I called it a little differently. I called it fake it until you make it. And really, that's my approach to handling the imposter syndrome. And of course, a lot of the times, even now, you can look at me and you can say, she's a doctor, she runs her own program, she's this and that. But when I look at myself in the mirror, sometimes I see, a 16-year-old girl who doesn't speak English and who isn't really very sure of herself. Sometimes I look in the mirror and don't recognize who I'm looking at. So really, as unsophisticated as it may sound, just do it. Yes, fake it until you make it, and you will be more and more comfortable in your skin with each day that passes along. Are you going to reach that perfect level of comfort? Well, I'm still waiting for it, but I am a little better at it every day.
Yeah, if I can just thread on Marina's talk there, I would completely agree. And I know that probably sounds horrible to especially some people in like the younger generation, us saying fake it till you make it, because we're in an economy of open acceptance and being who you are. And I think that those things are very important too. But the narrative that you tell yourself is the one that you believe. So if you're saying to yourself, I'm a fraud, I'm an imposter, I'm dumb, anything, that's what you believe. The fake it till you make it part is if you're telling yourself, I'm supposed to be here, I'm here, so I'm supposed to be here. Like they chose me to do this, so they believe I can do it. I can do this too. So I'm definitely all about fake it till you make it. And I mean, I don't know how many times I have sat in meetings and things like that and had really no clue what people were talking about. But I never, and I know they say, oh, you're supposed to ask questions or whatever, but I always had this huge fear of appearing ignorant. I didn't want to let my ignorance be known to everybody. So I would ask very poignant, articulate questions, and I would try to pose them in an intelligent way. So I think that these things are very important. And then I would go home, and Google myself to death every night, to figure it out. So yeah, I definitely think, if you, and same thing too, I struggled with imposter syndrome, my entire adult life. I remember when I first got hired at DWR, that's Department of Water Resources where I work now. I thought to myself, how the hell did I trick them into hiring me? Like any day now, they're going to figure out how stupid I am and they're going to fire me. Like literally, that's how I felt. I'm just like, if I could just stay hidden long enough, to pass my probation, maybe I can make it, So I totally get that. And I think that you have to just become really good at what you do. You have to learn everything. You have to know the answers. And then you will feel much better about yourself.
Thanks for sharing that. I think oftentimes individuals struggling with imposter syndrome will overcompensate to validate their sense of belonging and having a seat at the table. So thank you for sharing that. Anyone else wants to share their experiencing with imposter syndrome before we move on to the next, possibly last question, student question of the evening?
I was just gonna say, you can try to work it to your advantage. I would say I probably would be classified as having a lifelong imposter syndrome, but that's kind of what drove me. I just was never satisfied with the amount of knowledge I had with what I knew, and that's what just kept driving my interests.
Go ahead and go to the last question of the evening. I'm going to drop into the chat as well. How do you all balance life with work and to get to where you are today?
Well, I'll answer that if nobody else is ready to yet. Hey, dude, you know what? I'm coasting now. I said I front loaded my life. I ate my crap sandwiches for 20 years. And so now I've got a good gig, so I've got a solid, government work is 9 to 5, whatever, banker's hours, weekends off. And especially as you establish yourself in your career, the level of trust builds with your superiors. They know you're doing your job. You get a lot more freedoms at that point. But early on, I would probably say I didn't balance my work, school, career, life, all those things very well. Like I said, I got married very young. I had kids very young. I had kids my entire college career. So it was definitely a struggle, and that was reflected in my grades and the time it took for me to graduate, and in my relationships. And but God, it's like, what are you going to do, right? You're trying to it's short-term loss, long-term gain is the goal. So you have to eat your crap sandwiches for a little while. And unfortunately, that's just the name of the game.
Grad school and, undergraduate too. It's always, at least I had a kind of feeling of, push hard now to get to a goal. And once you get there, then you can relax. And the goalposts kind of kept moving back. And, there was a point, a few years ago when I kind of thought to myself, well, is this how I want to live the rest of my life? And I think it's just taking the time every once in a while to think about what the goal is, and is it worth it? Am I getting up early because it's a habit, or because there's some kind, there's an actual need for me to get up early and stay late today? Am I doing this work on the weekend just to say I did work on the weekend and clear my desk so I can do more work next weekend? Or is this something I can get done, get over the hump, and then have some maybe some more free time later on, or kind of clear the backlog and work as normal? But just kind of think about the cost benefit analysis, I guess. Sometimes when you're working so hard and kind of burning yourself out, and then you realize I'm just doing this to spin my wheels.
I don't think there is really ever a perfect balance, right? I don't think there are hundreds of books written about how to achieve that, but I don't think it really exists. And I think if you love what you do, if you're happy in your career, it doesn't really feel most of the time that you're burning yourself out. So I think it really comes down to the first thing that we talked about today, is really find something that you love to do. And if you're passionate about it, a lot of things in life will fall in place.
Anybody else before we move forward? All right, well, thank you for sharing your experiences. Let's go ahead and move on to the next part of the evening. Dean Gurminder Senga is going to give the closing message for the evening. Dean Senga, are you on the line?
Good afternoon. I'm pretty sure you guys are waiting to get out of here, and I will make my speech very short and sweet, but that was a joke. Again, before I start my message, I want to thank you all the panelists, and students for taking part in this great opportunity. And as I was listening to all of you, it reminded me of my journey, which I can share some other time, because I'm also a Fresno City grad, started in 1997. So that was an amazing journey. So you guys are all in great hands. That's what I would say. We have great, I would say, faculty, if not one of the best faculty we have in our college. You have just many of them. Our counselors, I see Susan, I see Jack, and we have great counselors. We need that we have a lot of support systems for you to make sure that whatever the dreams you have for you, and we help you reach those dreams. And I will end with a small story that I have two boys. They are 15 and 17, and they're going through the same journey as many of you have either gone through or you will go through. And I always shared with them a few things: that work hard and play hard. Don't do anything half-heartedly. And I would rather have you fail 100%, and then what you did right and what you need to do differently, and get back up and go for it again. So you've learned from your experiences. And then, however, they're still not sure what they want to do. And in this case, I have made kind of an executive decision is that your default major is engineering. So anything, you can become a musician, you can become or an artist, but if you have not figured out yet, your default major is engineering. So STEM has a great future, has been a great future. STEM major graduates have the lowest unemployment rate in the history of all employment. So they're always stayed employed, they make good living, and most of them had highest job satisfaction as well. So I will encourage you, as many of the panelists I was hearing, use the resources we have for you. Reach out to your counselors, reach out to your faculty, use their office hours. They are there for you. They are not faculty office hours, they are student office hours. So make sure you use them. And also, I'm pretty sure Jack and others have mentioned that we have a great program. Also, it's called ETC, Extend the Classroom. So make sure that you take advantage of all those resources. And one of the questions that was asked of the panelists was, how do you network, right? So I think the technology for the last 2 years have made that even easier, meaning is rather than you driving to a place, you can quickly jump on the Zoom call and 10, 15 minutes get to know their daily routine. How do they look like? So it's again, it is up to you. So I will close with this. What is standing between you and greatness is mainly you. And then start organizing your day. One thing which I've seen successful people do very well is they are disciplined and they know what they're going to be doing when they're going to be doing it. So these are a few tips I can share with you, but I would say keep on marching forward. We have lots of opportunities ahead of you. We have great support staff. We have great programs, and feel free to reach out to anyone. And then we are here to help you. With that, I want to thank all the panelists. I want to thank all the staff, Jack, Ben, Susie, Susan, and everybody else. And most importantly, you. We are here for you. You can reach out to us anytime. We're here to support you. With that, thank you so very much for having me. And I will, and then Dean McManus sends her regrets as well. She's not able to join, so I'm kind of filling in for her. And I'm pretty sure she will be very proud of all of you. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Dean Senga, for your closing statement. I want to thank the panelists tonight for your time and answering questions and inspiring all of our students. I have dropped the panelists their contact information in the chat. And lastly, please fill out the survey. We love to hear your feedback, and especially if you're a student getting extra credit for attending, please for sure fill out the survey. Other than that, thank you all. Have a great evening. It's a pleasure hosting this event tonight.